live. There we go. What's going on, everyone? Thank you all so much for tuning in at this time. Everybody that's here, greatly appreciate it. Anybody watching this on the replay, thank you so much. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I mean, what do you say at this point? This team is awful. They're not just losing, right? Like, losses happen. It's fine. They're not losing. They're getting destroyed. Like, it's not even a competition. It's not like these games are close and, they just didn't close out or anything. No, they are getting just ran through. They are getting dog walked. I mean, it's embarrassing at this point. Like, where's the pride with this team? Where's the energy? Where's the effort? Right? Like, this team it's just like they lay down, right? It's just they get bopped on the nose and they just like just cuddle up and cry. Ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, literally, LeBron James was the only one that showed up, which, thank you, right? Like, hopefully this is him starting to get back into a rhythm, into a flow. He was starting to hit some shots, which was really needed. He finally hit a three. I mean, he was still 1 of 4, but finally hit a three. So hopefully that slump is over. He finished with 29 points, 8 assists, and 5 boards with the steal. Still don't like the 5 turnovers, but LeBron James finally was like good. Like even early, he like really established himself and got going. It's like he heard the noise and he was like, all right, let me show you, right? But no, again, LeBron James was absolutely great this game. Gave you everything that you wanted, everything you could ask for. But where was everyone else? Where was Anthony Davis? Like, what was that? This is a game. Anthony Davis should have had 50. Like, he's going up against Bam Adebayo, who's small, and then Kevin Love most of the night. And he was what? He gave you what? 8 points? I don't even think he scored 10. He scored what? 8 points. 8 points, 7 rebounds. I like the 5 assists, but the guy got abused by everybody. The guy can't make free throws all of a sudden. The guy can't, like, it's wild to me. You're supposed to be our best player. You're supposed to be our superstar. You're supposed to be the guy that's leading the charge. You're supposed to be the guy that is the guy, right? This is supposed to be your team. You're the guy, right? I'm critical of everybody. Criticize LeBron, Austin Reeves, you name it. Anthony Davis. It's a dumpster. Absolute dumpster game. This is inexcusable from him, right? Look, I've gone off on Reeves and everyone else. This is embarrassing for him. There's no excuse for that. There's no, it's just a bad night. No. 3 of 14 is inexcusable. And it's not just that he didn't hit shots. It was everything. It was just the way, it was like he didn't even want to be out there. Like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be the guy, right? 40-year-old LeBron James showed up, right? Look, I've been very critical of LeBron, especially these last few games. Like I say, no one is above criticism. Neither is Anthony Davis. The 40-year-old shows up, but you don't, and this is supposed to be your team? You're supposed to be the guy? Get blown out by 40? You get abused by Kevin Love and Bam Adebayo? Like, what is that? It's absolutely embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. Anthony Davis, like, if I'm him, he better be in the locker room going like, I played like absolute dog water. Like, it's crazy. It is absolutely crazy that this is the result. That this is what Anthony Davis brought to the table tonight. An important game that we needed, coming off a loss, right? We lost, like 6 out of 8, something like that, or 6 out of 9, something like that. And Anthony Davis has been awful, right? Like, again, LeBron had bad stretches, okay? We talked about him. Need to talk about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis was a no-show. It's insane to me that this guy is supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the star. He's supposed to be the guy that is leading the charge for us. And instead, he's a literal no-show. He might as well not even have played basketball. It's not even that he missed shots. It's his energy, his effort, it's like he didn't even want to be there. It's like he didn't even want to play. It's It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. There's no excuse for that type of play. No excuse. No effort, no energy, no nothing. You're the guy. Where are you? Right? Again, the 40-year-old showed up, or this way, 40-year-old showed up, and you did it. It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, this team as a whole, look, we all know they need trades. This team's not good. They're just not good, right? They can't beat even half-decent teams anymore. Dude, that Orlando game, I don't know if that Orlando game was a curse or what. And this is why I said, people try to tell me, Tyler, calm down. Tyler, it's okay. It's only one game. Well, now look. Like I said, we've lost, what, 6 out of 8? Something like that? Right? If I'm not mistaken? Isn't that what happened? Right? It's not just one game. It's the snowball effect. Since then, we've been absolute dog doo-doo. I mean, literally, no, your second leading scorer was Rui Hachimura, who he had a solid game, but he had 14 points. Your second leading scorer was a guy that gave you 14. And it wasn't a game where, like, you had 9 guys in double figures, right? Because sometimes you'll see that. You're like, you know, one guy got you 30, and then the next highest scorer was like 15, but it's because, like, everybody chipped in. No. You had, what, 4 guys in double figures? Yeah, 4 guys. You had LeBron, Rui, D'Lo, and Max Christie. Max Christie was 4 of 8, 1 of 1 from 3. Max Christie actually had a good game in his credit, right? Like, his rebounding, he's been really good rebounding the basketball, move the basketball. He had I really liked what we saw from Max Christie. He's been doing the dirty work lately. And if he, like I said, if he keeps playing that way, I think he really deserves a spot in the rotation. But D'Lo started off nice. Him and LeBron were running a nice 2-man game early on, and then they just like went away from it. D'Lo just couldn't buy a bucket. He ended up finishing 5 of 13, 1 of 4 from 3. Didn't he? He had like 9 points at halftime, I think, something like that, 7 or 9 or something like that. So he was no show. Dalton Connect's still struggling, but he's a rookie. I'm not going to get too much on him. He's going to have his good games. He's going to have his bad games. He's going to have stretches like this. It's fine. But where was Anthony Davis? And this was supposed to be like a Gabe Vincent revenge. This is Gabe Vincent's revenge game. Gabe Vincent was dog water. Literally, 3 of 11 from the floor, 1 of 5 from 3. He had 3 steals. I like that. But, again, the guy was terrible. This team's just bad. I mean, that's the reality. They're just bad. Absolutely. It's terrible. But, anyway, we know the deal, right? They can't defend, can't score. Gotta get a trade. Hopefully we can stay afloat long enough for us to pull off the trade. Hopefully one's around the corner. We're going to find out here. But anyway, let's get into all the super chats, all the regular chats. Real quick, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. Starting us off with some super chats. Appreciate you guys. Maneuverance on Twitch. First off, coming out $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. AD has vanished, especially on the defense side. He's awful. Absolutely awful. Right? Like it's inexcusable. Like it's again, bad shots happen, right? Bad shooting nights happen, right? There's no reason he should have in this game. He's matched up against Kevin Love and Bam Adebayo. Look, Bam Adebayo is a great player. Bam Adebayo is great, defensive piece. But Anthony Davis is Anthony Davis. This is his game to dominate. Anthony Davis should have had 40 or 50 this game. Should have been a game where it's like, get out of the way, give me the basketball, and let's go win this game. Especially with LeBron dropping 29. Right, going into this game, if you were like, oh, LeBron's going to give you 29 tonight, everyone would probably be like, oh, man, Lakers are going to win this game. Right, because you think you look at the starting matchup, you're like, oh, man, Anthony Davis is probably going to run through these guys. Like, this might not even be fair. And he just didn't show up. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, it's not even just the poor shooting. It's just his effort, his energy. It was like he was sick or hurt or so. I don't know what it is. Whatever it was inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. But appreciate you. Thank you so much for super chat. Seriously. Dustin, coming out to $5 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. AD hasn't been right since the free throws versus Orlando. Seriously, I said it earlier. It's almost like the Orlando game has just been a curse. It's like the Orlando game just like everything just went. You lost that game that you were supposed to win, and everything else has just been awful. I mean, even the games the Lakers have won, you could make an argument they shouldn't have won. I mean, the Utah game, if it wasn't for the coach, who knows what happens? I know a lot of people think that AD was going to block that, but he might not have, right? Or they call a foul or something like that, right? Like, it's been an absolute mess. This team desperately needs new life in the locker room. The team is toxic and has no fight in it. I don't even know if it's they don't have fight. They're not good. Like, you just don't have the players or the personnel, right? Like, because again, I mean, we've had this problem since last season. Like, lack of effort, lack of energy, lack of that. At what point is it just like it's not a lack of effort? It's just they're not good enough, right? They're just like the roster itself just isn't good enough, right? Like, you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, so you're going to win some games, but outside of that, you're not winning very many. Like, and that's what I think the problem is that this team's just not good enough. I don't even think it's a lack of effort and energy anymore. I just think that they're just a bad basketball team. You don't have any athleticism. You don't have any versatility. Team's just a mess. They're dumpster fire. They are. I agree that they need some new life. We got to get a trade in here. We got to get something. We really do. We got to get something in here. Now, whatever. I'm still big on Zach LaVine. Even if it's not a Zach LaVine, you got to get whatever, a Nets trade. Go get Brandon Ingram. Whatever you need to do, you got to do it, because it's been an absolute mess. It's inexcusable at this point. Literally inexcusable. X and O, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming in hot with the $5 super chat. If we don't start looking at Rob Pelinka, I'm gonna get mad. It's obvious he can't construct anything, and Braun isn't washed. We got to stop everything. We got to stop envying as humans. Yeah, I know, right? Like, we are not worthy. Look, we need a trade. I still stand by. I don't want to see the Lakers panic trade, because again, one, you can get worse, and two, Lakers need multiple things. Right? Like, you could go get Walker Kessler right now for Jalen Chifino and 2 firsts. But is that alone enough to make you a contender? No. You need like 3. Like I said, I think you need at least 3 quality guys. You need 3 like higher end guys, or like 1, real ceiling raise, like a Zach LaVine, and then like 1 or 2 like mid-level guys, right? If you get like 3, ideally 4, but like, if you get at least 3 guys, the Lakers will be fine. Lakers will be in good shape. But you got to be patient, because you have to get those many guys. Like, going and getting just one guy. Like, let's say they trade both first for Zach LaVine, right? And he's my favorite target. He's the guy that I've wanted more than anybody, right? Zach LaVine by himself makes us better, but I don't think we're a real contender, right? Because there's so many other holes. There's so many other areas. I think he fixes and solves a lot. But like, if you sell the farm to go get, LaVine, then you're screwed. Or same thing with a Brandon Ingram or whatever. But now if you get LaVine, right? So let's say you're here, get LaVine, right? Now you have the ceiling raiser. And then if you get like a Dorian Finney-Smith and then, a Day'Ron Sharpe, now I think the gap is big enough to where you're a real contender. I think you need to get a handful of pieces if you really want to be a contender. But again, it's frustrating. I know. The fan in me is screaming like the rest of you, right? The fan in me is like, I don't care. Go get a trade. Get this done this time tomorrow. I'm with you. But when you take a step back and you let cooler heads prevail, they have to find the right trades. The problem is can this team stay alive long enough to weather that, right? Weather it so Rob can find a trade. Now, look, if Rob Pelinka doesn't do anything, or if he does, if we wait all this time and he does pull off some terrible trades or whatever, then yes, then let's grab our pitchforks and go after Pelinka. I'm not ready personally to go after Pelinka yet, because I want to wait for the end result. Yes, I get it. The fan in me, the fan in all of us, we're like, Rob Pelinka's just sitting on his thumbs. Again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. All the asking prices are insane, right? Like, they want 2 firsts plus for Cam Reddish, or not Cam Reddish, Cam Johnson, right? They want a first for Dorian Finney-Smith. Dallas was trying to get a first for Dorian Finney-Smith, and they couldn't. Brooklyn's been trying to get a first for Dorian Finney-Smith for going on 2 years now, right? Like, all the prices are insane. And until those prices start coming down, or teams are willing to give you a little wiggle room, we got to be patient. It's frustrating. We need a trade. You're watching this team just fall apart at the seams, but we got to. It's hard. It's frustrating, but we got to stay patient. We do. And got to find the right trades. Now, look, if he finds the right trades and he pulls it off, let's go, right? But if he doesn't, then I'm with you guys. Let's grab the pitchforks, right? Or if he does nothing, right? If like we get through the season, nothing happens. But thank you. Christian, coming out the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. support for showing up to this live. I have nothing to say. Last thing, make a damn trade for the players that are healthy. Go all in or not make a choice. First off, Christian, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting. Seriously, I really do appreciate you. Secondly, yeah, look, you got to pick a lane, right? Either you need to pull something off this trade deadline and end up turning this roster around and let's go contend for a championship or make a push for a championship. Or, yeah, like you said, rebuild, right? Like trade AD, trade LeBron, trade everybody, right? I don't think we need to go that extreme. If I mean, I don't think we're that far. And like I said, don't underestimate the value of like 2-3 guys. This is basketball, right? One guy can make a huge difference if it's the right piece. Like you add in 2, 3, 4 guys, all of a sudden. I mean, look at a couple seasons ago, right? 2-3 seasons ago now, where we were like 2-10, we were awful, and then you made that trade and you got like, I mean, they technically got like 7 new guys, but really it was only 3. It was like Vando, D'Lo, and then Reeves emerged and stuff like that. Like outside of that, it was like Malik Beasley was unplayable. Mo Bamba was hurt the entire time, right? It was just like it depends. But again, this is the NBA. 1, 2, 3 guys can really make the difference. Really make the difference. But appreciate you, Christian. Andrew, coming out to $5 super chat. First off, thank you. I appreciate you. There's no argument at this point, against Zach LaVine trade. All Laker fans should want a Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith trade. We have zero talent outside of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Look, you're preaching the choir, my guy. Right? Like go get Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and then perfect world you get Walker Kessler. But even if it's not Walker Kessler, get a Day'Ron Sharpe in the deal for Dorian Finney-Smith. You could probably do that and still keep your firsts, right? Like you could probably get Zach LaVine, no firsts, and then Dorian Finney-Smith, like I said, isn't worth first. He's not, right? I like Dorian Finney-Smith, but he's not worth the first. Like you might be able to actually do that trade. If it's Walker Kessler, you're gonna have to give up a first, maybe even 2. But if you can get Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a Day'Ron Sharpe for like a pick swap or like 5 seconds or something like that, then I would definitely do that. And then you still get your picks, but Lakers need that other guy. I've said it. Like they need that other guy. They need that guy that they can count on, that they can rely on, that can show up and deliver. Even on a bad night, he's giving you 15. But that's the problem. On a bad night, you don't know what any of these other guys are giving you. You don't know what night guys are going to show up, right? You don't know, is D'Lo giving you, 20 tonight, or is he giving you 8? Is Reeves giving you 25 tonight, or is he giving you 8, right? Like, it's just, you don't know with this team. And I'd rather go get a guy like a Zach LaVine that gives you a real ceiling raiser. And then on top of that, go and get that 3-and-D wing and then get that backup center. And now I think you're up there. Now I think you're good enough to be a contender and you solved a lot of what you need. So hopefully something's down the pike, right? Hopefully something's around the corner. We'll see, because it's ridiculous at this point. Raja, coming out $2 super chat. Thanks so much. Popular opinion, team looks worse than the 2022 team. I don't know. That team was what, 2 and this team that was 2-10, right? Start the season. No, that was the previous. That was the really bad Westbrook season. No, I don't think they're that bad, but they're not great, right? Like they're more talented. Like the problem with that team was they were just old. If it's the team that I'm thinking you're talking about, I think it's that team was just old and everyone was just bad. Like this team, like we have guys. It's just they're inconsistent. And we don't have athletes. Our biggest issue is we don't have athletes, right? We don't have guys that can recover. We don't have guys that can go in scheme. We don't have those types of things. And that's the problem. That's where the problem lies, right? We need to get some real athletes in the mix here. Get some real 3-and-D guys, all of that. Because it's just, right now, it is a mess. It is an absolute mess. But Crippy, coming out $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think it's the players and the offense. You see how Miami was running screens for Hero. Why don't we do the same for Connect? Connect barely took any of the shots. It's just isolation ball. I don't get it. First off, again, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Secondly, I think that it's the problem is you don't have the guys. Like, yeah, Connect can shoot, can do those things. But the problem is that, like, what are you going to do? You're just going to have him take 30 shots a game? And he's in a slump right now, which, again, is fine. He's a rookie. But it's the overall guys, right? Like we don't have the consistency from the scoring department. We don't have the guys that can regularly game in and game out, night in and night out, show up and deliver. And that's the problem. We need those guys. We need guys that can show up on a nightly basis and give you some level of production, right? Like we've gone away from some of the things that have worked offensively, right? Like running through Anthony Davis, right? Like we now you have LeBron James who's on ball a lot more, which, you know, again, it's fine, but we were having some success with AD kind of being on ball. Not a game like this. Again, Anthony Davis was god awful, but we've changed the style in which we've played. Part of that has been D'Lo was out, Reeves was out, stuff like that. But you also need to find that better balance on the offensive end. We get too stagnant at times. And it doesn't help when guys aren't hitting shots, right? Because we've seen those games where, you know, D'Lo's connecting and Reeves is hitting and Connect is on and all that stuff, right? Like teams are glued to Connect. Right, watch these games. As soon as Connect touches the ball, he's got a guy draped all over him. He's the only guy that they're worried about. Tyler Hero also was taking like half-court threes and was just lighting it up, right? Like he was on fire, right? What does he look like if he's not hitting everything? I mean, he was hitting and ones and all kinds of stuff. I think it was just more circumstance as far as like Tyler Hero. But I do, however, agree, and I have said this on several occasions, I do think that the Lakers need to get Connect in the actions more, right? They have a tendency to just completely forget about him. And that's a problem, right? It's one thing when, you know, like it's fine if everyone else is clicking and you're basically taking a guy out of a possession, right? It's another thing when guys aren't clicking and it's like you have a guy that can really get going, but he's also a rhythm shooter, right? He needs to get into a rhythm. Like we've seen him go 0 of 4 and then finish 6 of 10. Right? Because you just boom, 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 boom. Right? So they do need to get him in more actions and get him in better spots to open up shots. But in a game like this, I just think it was just somewhat circumstantial. But look, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. It's just, it's frustrating. Lakers need to do something. They got to get something done. It's frustrating. But Jason, coming out the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate you. What is worse, AD playing right now or how they did do eternity at Scream 5? Still early in the season, and a lot could still happen. Stu's definitely not living, and Celtics suck. But I appreciate you, Jason. Thank you, buddy. Look, get your licks in. Talk, my guy. I do appreciate you as always. But, I mean, look, Anthony Davis he's god-awful. He is. He's terrible. Like, this was inexcusable. Look, again, I've been very critical of LeBron. I've been very critical of Reeves and D'Lo and everybody. No one is above criticism, like I mention all the time. Nobody. There's not a single player on this roster that's above criticism. That was awful. You are our best player. This is supposed to be your team. You're going up against Bam Adebayo and Kevin Love, and you just got abused. Like, it's inexcusable. Absolutely inexcusable. But again, Jason, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much, buddy. And then Wajo coming out the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Seriously. Forget the inconsistencies. Half of the roster is consistently bad and on a high payroll. So we might get LaVine anyways with salary match. Yeah, look, I'm big on LaVine. First off, again, go get LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Day'Ron Sharpe, and let's go try to win a championship here. Outside of that, right? Look, it's just the roster's just not good enough. You just don't have the talent, right? You don't have athletes. So when you have athletes, right, and you have guys that can do multiple things on the basketball court, even on a bad shooting night, you can still scratch and claw for wins. How? Because you have the athletes that can defend out on the perimeter, that can chase down loose balls, that are not giving up 7 offensive boards in the first quarter, right? Like, you can still, again, like I said, scratch and claw your way to a win, or to get, at least not get blown out like we just did, right? Like, but when you don't have those athletes and guys can't shoot and they don't provide anything else defensively or athletically, this is the result, right? Like, because you can't run the defensive schemes. Like, people are like JJ Redick, right? Like, look at JJ Redick not doing what he's supposed. No, this has nothing to do with JJ Redick. I don't care how good of a coach you are. I defended Darvin Ham last year on numerous occasions because of how bad the roster was, right? Like, again, like, I don't care how good of a coach is. You're only limited or unlimited based on your players. If your players are great, you can do different. If we had a bunch of athletes out there, JJ Redick can run different schemes. He can run different offensive sets. He can run different defensive sets. Hey, this defensive set isn't working. Okay, let's throw this look out there. That's not working. Okay, let's throw this out there. But when it's like, okay, I only have like 3 plays I can run because D'Lo can't chase guys around, or this guy, like, as soon as we trap or double and they do the kick out, our guys are too slow to get over, right? Like, you're limited on what you can do on the basketball court. So as soon as teams figure it out, right, it's like, okay, well, we just won, right? Like, but when you have these guys that can regularly, and you can throw different looks, right? Okay, they figured out the first look. Okay, let's throw this one out there. Okay, figure that out. Okay, let's throw this one out there. And you can just keep making the adjustments, keep making changes. If it's working, you just leave it alone, right? Keep going until they figure it out. If they never figure it out, then they never figure it out. That's a big problem. But again, thank you all so much for the super chats. Seriously. All right, let's get into the regular chat here until some more super chats come in. I appreciate you guys. Real quick, again, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. JJ's not looking like the savior some people thought he would be. I mean, I think he's been great. Like, has he had his blunders? Has he had his hiccups? Yeah, of course. Right. But again, this isn't on JJ. This is the team. The team just doesn't have the talent. You can only do so much as a coach. You can only micromanage so much. You only get so many timeouts. You only get so many substitutions. You only get so many different things. And, when you go 7, 8, 9, 10 guys and none of them are doing what you need them to do, like, what are you supposed to do? Right? Like, you only have so many options as a head coach. And that's the problem. This is an embarrassment. There's nothing left to discuss. They have to trade for LaVine immediately. There's no longer an argument against it. Yeah, I agree. LeBron showed up if he wants to, but needs to cut the turnovers. Yeah, look, he was great this game. Finally, he was like, yes, thank you. Hopefully, this is kind of a bit of the turnaround. And he also hit a 3, which is good. It's like, whew. But yeah, it is one of those things where it's like got to take care of the basketball. Plus, Lakers don't have legit role players. This roster's so trash. The Pistons got better role players than this team. Tyler, yeah, not wrong. It's just, again, they just don't have the athletes. Guys are either, there's no middle ground with anybody. I have talked about this with Reeves, D'Lo, all these guys. There's no middle ground. It's just either guys show up or they don't. It's like you see teams. It's like guys are struggling as a team, but there's that middle ground, right? Lakers don't have that middle ground. We have a G League roster. Yeah, no coach saving this team. Bounce back game for LeBron, but no one else stepped up. We really needed that point of attack defender or backcourt getting destroyed defensively. Yeah, 100%. By the way, and I am. Hopefully, this is like, all right, LeBron's getting back. He's settling back in. Let's go, right? Because we need it. We need him to kind of get back in rhythm. But again, like I said this earlier in the season, right? Like, if it's just LeBron and Anthony Davis and no one else is showing up on a regular basis, you're not going to win very many games. We need more than just LeBron James and Anthony Davis giving you 60 every night. Right? It literally takes both of those guys, collectively to score 60 points for us just to have a chance, not even win, just for us to be in those games. We just don't have a roster that doesn't fit. Yeah. Rui and DK are not a long-term solution to slow AR comeback and D'Lo off the bench. This team has so many holes. Yeah, this team. Look, Connect's not supposed to be the savior, though, right? Like, he's a rookie. He's 24. He's great, but he's a rookie, right? Like, that's why, like, you haven't heard me criticize him the last few games because, again, like, you expect this. He's going to have these stretches, and then he's going to get out of this, and then I'll have a game where he drops, 22 or whatever, right? The 2 games prior to this slump, he was leading the team in points, right? Like, so it's just like, again, it depends on the circumstance, but you need, like, I've said it, everybody on this roster should be available. Everybody, except for LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Dalton Connect. Those are the only 3 guys that should be, like, off the table, like, untouchable. I don't think anyone's untouchable, but you get my point, right? For Lakers means they're the only ones that should be untouchable. Just beg for mercy, Laker Nation. Looks like a team with zero heart. even in spite of the lack of athleticism. But again, I don't think it's that. I really don't. I don't think it's lack of heart. I just think that they're just not good enough, right? And we don't have the athletes to maintain, right? Like D'Lo, I've talked about this before. He gets neutralized. If he's not shooting the lights out, he's literally unplayable because he doesn't provide anything else, and you don't need the playmaking from him to the level that we needed in previous years. So it kind of gets washed out. And Waja, you also sent super chat. Thank you so much. Ty, at this point, they won't even beat the Wizards. I hope that's not the case. I hope they've done a good job of beating the bad teams. It's just the good to half decent teams they really just struggle against, right? Like they've done a good job of like beating the teams you're supposed to beat, but it's like the teams that are like half decent are like if you're at least good or like okay, right? Like you can beat the Lakers. If you're bad, Lakers are gonna win, right? It's kind of how it is. Stop switching everything. It doesn't work. Problem is, there's only so many defensive schemes you can run. We don't have the athletes, right? Like you saw them. They ran into a zone, and then guys are just shooting the lights out. It's like, all right, like we'll just keep swinging the ball, attack the zone. You don't have the athletes to recover, so we'll just shoot, right? Like, and you got ran through, right? Like JJ tried like 3 or 4 different looks, but again, it doesn't work because like what else are you supposed to do? You only have so many defensive schemes that you can run with this team because you don't have guys that are good defenders or even just good athletes, right? You don't have a bunch of guys that can recover on the defensive side, or if they get beat, they can get back or at least challenge or switch, or, if they double and trap, right, and the ball kicks out, they can come back and recover. The only guy you have that can do that is Jared Vanderbilt, right? So, like, we need those kind of guys, and that's the problem. It's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating, but I'm with you, Stakes. LeBron is 40. What's AD's excuse? There is no excuse. This is inexcusable. There's no reason this type of game should have happened. No reason. That's funny. I said that earlier. It was like, Orlando almost feels like a curse. Like that game like feels like a curse. Bro, nobody has the killer mentality on this team yet. It's ridiculous. Lakers are yeah, I feel it. There's a huge case against LaVine. I disagree. I think there's more reasoning between LaVine than otherwise. Like every case that people make, there's a bigger counterpoint, like depth. People are like, oh, you need depth. Okay, well, depth is great when it shows up. When your depth is non-existent, who cares about depth? If you can just be better on the front end, look at Boston when they won. Right? They weren't like 12 guys deep. And once you get to the playoffs, you're only running 7 or 8 guys anyway, right? Denver when they won. Literally, the last 2 teams that won the championship were super heavy front-loaded and light back-loaded. They only had like 6, 7 guys, if that. Lakers could go get Zach LaVine and still have 12 guys. Like, it's a big difference. LeBron just had some bad games, and people started saying Father Time is undefeated. Look, there were some bad games. But here's the thing, and this was the point. I do think Father Time is catching up because there are, like, LeBron has had bad games over his career, but these were, like, unplayably bad games. Why? Because he's not youthful, right? Like, he doesn't have, so, like, look, it's LeBron. So people are always going to go to the extreme for everything. People are always going to overdo it because it's LeBron. Oh, LeBron's washed. He's trash, blah, 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 blah. And I've said a million times, he's not washed. I trust him to figure it out. I trust him to get back into it. But the bad games are really bad now. And that's the difference, right? That is the sign of Father Time, right? Because he's had bad games in the past. And those bad games were still good by most people's standards. It's just by LeBron standards, they were bad, right? Well, he's having bad games by like anybody's standards, right? Like, and that's the difference. That's where I think Father Time, to an extent, has kind of caught up in that regard. But Andrew, coming out, $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Gabe is cross-country cheerleader effect. Dude, that guy, I saw so many things of like, oh, this is his revenge game. This is his revenge game. He's facing Miami. And this dude was cheeks. Absolute cheeks. But Rui cannot make a layup. It has atrocious IQ and awareness on both ends. D'Lo and AR have zero athletic capabilities. Worst backcourt in the NBA. Vando is a vegan with zero skills. So many people see so many people say that, like, oh, he's a vegan. Look, you're preaching to the choir here, buddy. Yeah, I mean, look, Rui, he's slotted out of position. He's a 4 masquerading as a 3. And to his credit, he's done a good job of kind of adapting to that role, right? But he's not good for that role. I will say though, the lack of layup making ability is incredibly frustrating. And I've talked about that before on the stream. Like, that guy misses more layups than I think anyone I've ever seen at his size. He's so big and just like physical, but like he has no control around the rim at times, right? Like, he's just like, but look, Reeves and D'Lo, they're redundant. You have a redundancy there. They're essentially the same player in many ways. Whichever one you want to argue is better, whatever. But point is, they're both too similar, right? And that's the problem. You got to trade one. Look, I'm not against trading both, but I think you got to at least trade one. And D'Angelo Russell's the guy that I think is going to end up being traded, and I think he should be traded. Again, Reeves, I am not against trading. I don't think you trade him just to trade him, but if you can get the right trade or the right piece, right? Like, supposedly Lakers will only trade him for a superstar. I don't agree with that, right? Like, if you get, for example, right, let's say you get Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a Day'Ron Sharpe, right? And then you can turn Austin Reeves plus whatever filler into like I don't know, like a Bruce Brown, right? I think you're a much better team, right? Like, whether you think Reeves is better or not, he's not better defensively. He's not better at initiating offenses. Like, again, to me, it's the overall package. Like, I don't think you have to trade Reeves for a superstar. I think if you can turn Reeves into a piece that makes more sense for the overall team, you should, right? I think if you can get, like I said, what's better? Austin Reeves, Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, or Bruce Brown, Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis, right? Like, so again, I think it depends on what you're getting in return, and does it make more sense for the team, right? Like, Austin Reeves, if you get Zach LaVine, you don't really need Austin Reeves, right? I mean, same thing, even if you don't get Zach, let's say you get Brandon Ingram instead, right? Because there's a lot of talks about Brandon Ingram maybe being a Laker at some point. Even if you were to get Brandon Ingram, Austin Reeves makes less sense. Again, what makes more sense? Brandon Ingram, or Austin Reeves, Brandon Ingram, Dorian Finney-Smith, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis? Or, again, like a Bruce Brown, Dorian Finney-Smith, there we go, Brandon Ingram, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. Again, I just think it depends on, what are you getting, right, is kind of my point, right? But Stakes coming out the $2 super chat. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. LaVine can defend. His problem is off ball. He's been one of the best off ball three-point shooters, catch and shoot three-point shooters in the league. He's just heavily on ball because Chicago needs it. He's doing everything for Chicago, right? But he was really good like in Minnesota when like Jimmy Butler was there and stuff like he's had stretches where he's been really good off ball. And again, he's one of the best catch and shoot three-point shooters in the league, like since he came into the league, right? Defensively, like, people talk, like, what I think is funny is most people's arguments for Zach LaVine, if you just took like 10 seconds to Google search like what your argument is, you'd see that it's inaccurate. Almost every argument I get, he's a terrible defender. Like, again, Google exists. You can look that up. He is every year either league average or better. He would be literally our third best defensive player, like by rating, right? Like, and it's just, again, you kind of go down the list. It's just, Zach LaVine is fine. I'm not worried about his off ball. And I don't think he has to play off ball that much. You almost want him to be on ball. Again, put him in the Austin Reeves role. Imagine if Zach LaVine was in the Austin Reeves role right now, how much better we would be, right? Forget everything else. Like, obviously, I think we still need other stuff. But imagine if you just right now took Austin Reeves off this team and put in Zach LaVine, how much better we would be right now with Zach LaVine as that third guy in that Austin Reeves role, on ball, off ball, all of that. He'd be great. He'd be a better team. But I appreciate you. Thanks. Flyboy Cam. Thank you so much for Super Chat. Seriously, I appreciate it. Did it say it's your first? Oh, no, it's your 10th Super Chat. Thank you so much. Well, your 10th one. Thank you. Rob said to wait 30 games. Go get LaVine and Dorian Finney-Smith. Look, I'm right there with you. I just think he threw out that number because it's kind of like by the time we get to 30 games, you're essentially at December 15th, right? Because we have what? We have like 3 more games. So we'll be at what, 20, 25, 26 games. So you're basically looking at kind of that time, right? So I think it was more of just like, we're probably not going to be able to make a trade till after December 15th. And that puts you at around 30 games. So I think that that's accurate, right? But you could go get Zach LaVine and Dorian Finney-Smith right now. However, I don't think Dorian Finney-Smith is worth the first. I like Dorian Finney-Smith. He's not worth the first. Now, if you can get like Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Schroeder, and like Day'Ron Sharpe for a first, right? Like, sure, go ahead, do that, right? But yeah, I look, Zach LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Day'Ron Sharpe, and let's go compete for a championship. And then again, I would trade Reeves if you can get a better like point of attack guard. Appreciate you, Flyboy. Michael, Rob should never give out player options. Agree. Like, so that's one of the things that like I am wholeheartedly against Rob Pelinka on. Like, look, I've defended Rob Pelinka a lot because most of the things that people criticize Rob Pelinka for, he had no control over, right? Like, he has zero control over, right? But there's a lot of things that he does, right? For example, second round picks. It's literally called the Rob Pelinka rule now. The NBA had to change the way second round picks are signed because of Rob Pelinka's poor decision making, right? Like, it's crazy. Like, it literally was called the Rob Pelinka rule. And then the player options. Again, that's why I always say, like, there's a lot of things to criticize Rob Pelinka on. There is a lot you can criticize Rob Pelinka on. But usually the stuff people criticize Rob Pelinka on, again, he had nothing to do with, right? Like, people blame him for Russell Westbrook. Russell Westbrook wasn't even on his radar. That was LeBron. Again, Google exists. LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook went to Anthony Davis's house, and the 3 of them talked and said, we will do whatever it takes to win, because Russell Westbrook wanted to be back in LA, wanted to win a championship at home. LeBron James wanted to play more off ball, and Anthony Davis said he would play center if it meant that they could, if that's how it had to work. That was the conversation. Literally, again, you can Google it. And then LeBron James and Anthony Davis went to Jeannie Buss and said, tell Rob to get Russell Westbrook. And then he went and got Russell. He had no intentions of getting Russell. He was working out and trying to figure it out with DeMar DeRozan. And then he was ended up trying to get a deal done with Sacramento for Buddy Hield. Like, Sacramento Kings were furious, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, it's funny. Like, people blame Rob for like everything but the things you should be blaming him for. Which, again, your point, the player options, it is idiotic, right? Like, again, like, if you want to blame Rob for that, I'm right there with you. Let's grab our pitchforks, right? Like, but like some of the stuff that they blame him for is just like, it's not his control. Like, people are like, fire Rob. For who? What respected GM wants to come to the Lakers and listen to Jeannie Buss, Kurt Rambis, and Linda Rambis tell him how to do his job? You think Bob Myers is coming to the Lakers to have 3 idiots tell him how to do his job when he's looked at as one of the greatest GMs ever? Like, oh, I have to get everything approved. Jeannie, when do you ever hear of a GM vetoing a trade? Jeannie has vetoed like 3 in the last 2 years. You never hear a GM or an owner, sorry, not GM. You never hear an owner veto a trade, right? But Jeannie's done it 3 times in the last 2 years. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Anyway, my rant's over. Thank you. I appreciate you. You can scheme around LaVine defensive issues. Yeah, he's good, though, defensively. He's not elite. He's not great. He's not this, like, oh, like he's not Jared Vanderbilt defensively, but he would literally be our third best defender behind Anthony Davis, and I think Cam Reddish actually is he's been good because of his size and length, but not like elite. Who is it? Dang, I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe it is Cam Reddish now. But point is that literally he would be like the third best defensive player on this team. It's not a defensive issue, right? Like, again, you just need serviceable defense, especially if you're like number 1 or 2 offensively. Like Lakers, outside of this recent stretch, before this recent stretch of like 5 games, Lakers were like 3rd or 4th in total defense. I think they were like half a point out of like 3rd. Like, if you can move into the top 3, and be consistent offensively, and if you're like top 12 defensively or top 15, great example, Denver, right? Denver was the 2nd worst defense in the playoffs in the entire playoffs when they won their championship. They were 15th, I believe, off the top of my head, 15th in defense the year that they won. It was like the first time in like 50 years or whatever that a team that bad defensively won a championship. So, again, just things to keep in mind. But I appreciate you, Steak. Seriously, thank you. Next up, Waja, coming out $10 super chat. Thank you so much. One more super chat. Hey, I'll take it. Thank you. Seriously. Levine plus BB, I'm assuming Bruce Brown, plus Jakob Poeltl, 3-team to maybe match salaries to offload these players who are out of the league next year. Levine. So I don't know. Can they even do that? So you're talking. So Levine, talking 43 million. Let's say 44. Because remember, you have to send out more salary. So you're saying, so 44, trying to do this on my head. Bruce Brown's making what, 23? So let's just say 24. So that's 68. Plus Jakob Poeltl's making what, 19 and a half? Something like that. Let's call it 20. Right? So you're talking 88 million you'd have to send out. And you'd still have to fill out a roster. So D'Lo Rui gets you to 35, right? Gabe Vincent gets you to 46. Vando gets you to 56. Max Christie gets you to 64. Austin Reeves gets you to 76. Jalen Hood-Schifino gets you to basically 80. You'd still be like 8 million shot. I don't think they could do that. I don't think that there's a way to do that. Because you'd still have to fill out a roster. You basically be trading your entire roster to do that. Now, you could get Levine and one of them, right? So, like, you could do Levine, Bruce Brown, and then like a Day'Ron Sharpe or a because I've broken down in a video because I had so many people ask me, can you get Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic? Which you can. You can actually get both and fill out a roster and still be good. And technically go get Torrey Craig or something like that if you want. So the problem is, I saw you said Levine and plus Jakob Poeltl. I wouldn't hate that. The problem is that, like, is if you get Jakob Poeltl, you're going to have to start him because he's making like 20 million, right? Like, I would rather go Bruce Brown and then go get a Day'Ron Sharpe and start, because now you have Bruce Brown as your point of attack. You could go like Bruce Brown, Levine. You could keep Jared Vanderbilt if you want, and then just have that defensive menace whenever he's healthy, if he ever gets healthy. But assuming he does, right? LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and then have I've said this before. We need to see him play first, right? And show that he's healthy. But the more that I think of Bruce Brown, the more that I like Bruce Brown. I've said this before. It's been a while since I've talked about this, but like Bruce Brown, I see Sushi said you're overhyping Bruce Brown. I'm not, because again, no one's saying Bruce Brown's a superstar or anything like that, but he solves the point of attack defense. He solves the initiating and playmaking. He's not a great 3-point shooter, but he would be seamless, right? He's similar. He's familiar with the type of offense we're running, right? Like he would be really good for that team. Washa said, take it back. Vooch and Levine. Yeah, like so you could get both if you wanted to, and then also get like a Torrey Craig or something like that. So you could literally do Levine, Vu, and then Torrey Craig if you wanted to. So you get like a 3-and-D Wayne veteran, get a starting center, and then you get your bucket getter in Zach Levine. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for super chat. All right, let's get back into the regular chat till some more trickle in. We are trash. No trades. F this team. Look, we are trash. I'll give you that. We are terrible. But again, don't underestimate the value of 2 or 3 2 or 3 quality pieces. Right? Like you get 2 or 3 right pieces. Like this is basketball, right? Like it's one of the few sports that even one guy can make the difference. Right? You start adding in 2, 3 guys. Be a big difference. Let's see. Keep blaming LeBron, and he will keep reminding y'all he's still the best player on the team. LeBron is amazing. Connect hasn't looked so good since Reeves got hurt. Just saying. He started playing poorly before Reeves got hurt. His first game was when Reeves, or no, his second game was when Reeves got hurt in the OKC game. So it was before his slump started before Reeves. Again, you can look it up. Started before. What did Denver do to us? We've completely imploded since then. No, we've imploded since the Orlando game. The Orlando game is the one that really hurt us. Get ready for a Zach Levine trade video tomorrow, y'all. Now I got too many other videos. Don't worry, you'll get another Zach. I know you love my Zach Levine videos, so don't worry, you'll get another one soon. But I have like 5 other videos I need to make. Nobody wants to play with LeBron. Stop it. Plenty of people want to play with LeBron. How many stars want to be the third guy? That's something you also got to keep in mind too. Let's see. Trade everyone, time to rebuild. Nah, like I said, I don't think we're that far. I don't think we're again, don't underestimate the value of like 2, 3 guys. Seriously. Mama Mentality coming to hop the $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Would you trade AD for Zach Levine and Vucevic? To be honest, Zach is equal to a second star as AD is. Plus, you get a big who plays like a big and shoots out the perimeter. Personally, no. Because, yes, you'd be probably better overall offensively because, you're getting a 20-10 center, plus you're getting, Zach Levine who can help the offense. But Anthony Davis accounts for so much of this team that neither of those guys account for, right? Like Anthony Davis, the only way I trade Anthony Davis is if it's a rebuild, or, of course, if you could get like, a Giannis or something like that, then yeah, I'd probably do that. But I'm talking about like, would you trade 80 for these guys, right? Like, no. Because one, you don't have to trade AD for either of those guys. Like, you could literally get both, right? Like, supposedly, Chicago just wants to get off of Zach Levine, and they're willing to give up on Vu for 2 seconds. So there's no reason for you to get, unless they're giving you like all their first. They have like a top 10 protect first. Not just that, but would Anthony Davis want to go there too? But if you were going to trade Anthony Davis, then it's to rebuild. Which Zach Levine and Vu, I don't think make us overall better. I think you're better offensively, but you're probably the worst defensive team in the league at that point. Because again, Anthony Davis is the thing that keeps you afloat. And like I said, you don't need to trade AD to get those 2 guys, which is why. And you wouldn't be able to, like, you'd have to trade other pieces, right? Like Anthony Davis is making what, like $50 million? So like you'd have to also trade like D'Lo too in that. So essentially, you're asking, is Zach Levine's better than D'Lo, without a doubt. But is Zach Levine and Vu better than 80 and like a D'Lo? I don't think so, right? But I appreciate it. Look, I love exploring, right? So please feel free to ask away any type of hypothetical trades. I'm always down to explore and have those conversations. But yeah, personally, I wouldn't. Personally, I just don't think you'd be overall better. Like if you were overall better, I'd be like yes, but we wouldn't be, which is the problem. But again, I appreciate you. Let's see. Sorry, trying to find something me real quick. those Austin fanboys don't want to trade Reeves. They don't want to trade. Look, I like Reeves. I do. I like Reeves, but he's not a star. Like, problem is like so many people just overhype Reeves. Still, I understand overhyping Reeves. When he was coming off the season that he did when we went to the conference finals, because the dude was ridiculous. I was overhyping Reeves at that point. But it's about being able to come to the realization that the reality is the reality. Austin Reeves had a very great run. We have seen a lot of players have very great runs and eventually fizzle out. They're one of those teams, or he's one of those guys that have essentially fizzled out from that great run. Again, he's still a good player, but he's not the superstar or the star that we thought he might be. Should have brought the South Bay Lakers at least. They have more heart. Yeah, seriously. Only an ISO score can help, which Zach LaVine does that. Let's see. I've said this before, Speedy. Like, what's winning? Dude, because Anthony Davis wasn't considered a winner. LeBron wasn't a winner until he went to Miami, right? Like, Bosh wasn't a winner until he went to Miami. Kevin Love wasn't a winner until he went to Cleveland. Kyrie wasn't a winner until LeBron went, right? Like, Pau Gasol wasn't a winner until he went with Kobe, right? Like, Shaq wasn't a winner until he went to the Lakers. Like, you can go down the list over and over and over and over again. Like, Dwight wasn't a winner until, he went to the Lakers, right? Like, what is it? Aaron Gordon wasn't a winner until he went to Denver, right? Like, Jokic wasn't a winner until he was, right? Like there's, in reality, there are only like 3 guys in the last 10 years that have actually like been winners. KD wasn't a winner before he went to Steph, right? Like Steph, LeBron, and like Jokic and Giannis are like the guys the last like 10 years, right? Like literally, because Golden State won like 5 of those. LeBron won like 5 of those, right? Like, again, like what is considered winning? Very few players actually are winners. There's literally only a handful of them every like 20 years, right? Like literally, like there's very few of them. So again, what is a winner? Is basketball a one player sport, or is it 5? Right? You want the best 5 pieces out there is the difference. But Joe coming out $10 super chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I cry at night sometimes. Look, Joe, I'm right there with you, buddy. First off, thank you for the super chat. Secondly, yeah, it's kind of rough, right? We're on some hard times right now. The problem is like they're not like, it's one thing to lose. It's one thing to go on a losing streak, right? Because like I said, they've lost like 6 out of 8 or something like that. It's one thing to do that. It's another thing to get blown out and all. Like they're literally not even competitive is the problem, right? It's like losing happens. Losses happen. It's fine. But they're getting blown out is the problem. It's just like, come on, man. Can we please like figure this out? It's just, I'm with you. I'm with you, buddy. I am with you. But Joe, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for super chat, buddy. Let's see. Sorry, trying to find something to me real quick. 4 out of 5 games under 28. Let's see. That's a very, very bad. Like they got better because they got Anthony Edwards. Karl Anthony Towns became a star. They went and got Jaden McDaniels. Like it was a completely different team, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, they just got rid of Zach LaVine and they were better. No, they got rid of Zach LaVine and they were just as bad, if not worse, for a couple years. And then Anthony Edwards emerged and kind of became their guy. And then they started improving. Like that's a very misrepresentation of what actually happened. It wasn't like they got rid of him and then they won, right? Like, no, they got rid of him and were still bad for a couple years. And then they went and got Anthony Edwards and traded for Rudy Gobert and all that stuff, right? Like, that's the difference. I'm blaming Rob until it gets better. I can understand it. The season's not over. It's far from over. Still a lot of basketball to be played, but it is frustrating. Lakers are getting blown out even when Reeves is playing. Literally, they've lost, like I said, they've lost like 6 out of the last 8. And like every other game, or all but 2 of them have been blowouts. And Reeves hasn't missed 8 games. His team has just been bad, period. Let's see. 80 has no shame. Yeah, he was terrible. Yeah, it did. It was that, it's like that domino effect at this point. It's infuriating. I personally don't think any trade will help this team outside of Dalton and Max, even though they didn't have a good game. The whole Laker bench is garbage. Yeah. I mean, again, this is basketball. This is the NBA, right? Like football outside of like the quarterback, 1 guy, 2 guys, 3 guys don't really make it can make a difference, but not that big of a difference, right? Baseball, all that stuff, right? Basketball is the sport where 1 guy by himself can turn you from, missing the playoffs to all of a sudden, in the playoffs, right? Like, example, look at Boston. Every year, they couldn't get over the hump, and then they go and they get Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis, and Kristaps Porzingis only played like half the season, and they still won, right? Like, or you look at, Denver, right? Like, Denver, they were in the conference finals once, they were losing every year, and then they went and got Aaron Gordon, KCP, boom, championship, right? Like, again, don't underestimate Dallas last season, right? Like, no one thought PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford would be this huge difference maker. Guess what they were, right? Derrick Jones Jr. emerged as like a legit 3-and-D wing, and then they went and got, they went and got, a couple key pieces, and boom, all of a sudden they're winning, right? Like, so again, don't underestimate the value of what a couple guys can do. And you also got to think it drops the pecking order, right? If you get a guy like Zach LaVine, well, now Austin Reeves is your 4th guy rather than your 3rd guy, right? So the games where he's really good, you're winning all of those. The games where he's bad, you're still winning. You're still winning most of them, right? Like, there's difference. The only arguments against LaVine are absurd. Look, I've said the same thing. Literally, I have yet to hear a compelling argument about why the Lakers shouldn't get Zach LaVine. It's always the same, like, handful of rebuttals, which, like I've said, if you just look it up, you would see that they're inaccurate. People, he's injury prone. Again, look it up. He's not, right? Or like, what is missing 5 games considered injury prone, right? Like, if that's the case, then every player in the league is injury prone, right? Like, people, he's a bad defender. Again, look it up. He's not. Like, he's either league average or better every season, right? Sometimes way better, right? Like, well, you wouldn't have any depth. You'd still be the same amount of depth that you have right now. And again, like, what depth? Depth is great when guys show up. Depth is terrible when they don't, right? Like, is anyone like, you trade Gabe Vincent, Rui Hachimura, and D'Angelo Russell. D'Angelo Russell has been essentially unplayable this season outside of like a handful of games. Rui Hachimura is good, but he's inconsistent, right? And he's playing out of position. And Gabe Vincent, I mean, like, you and me could probably play better than Gabe Vincent's played, right? Like, it's just like, again, what are we losing, right? Like, but you're getting a guy that is, an all-star caliber talent. So I'm with, and then you also said they traded Zach at a young age, at a younger age than DK for JB. Again, it's a very different circumstance, right? Like, the comment was like, oh, they got rid of Zach LaVine and then they turned it around. Yeah, like 5 years later. Like, if it was like the next year, that's different. But it literally was like 5 years later. And they got lucky with Anthony Edwards, who became a star like immediately, and then traded for Rudy Gobert, and then Karl Anthony Towns came into his own and all that stuff, right? Like, there's variables that are being left out in that, it's just the point. But again, I appreciate you. All right, let's try to get through a couple more here. Dude's been awful since the missed free throws. Yeah, it's like he's in his own head, especially at the free throw line. It's like he's in his own head at the free throw line. It's infuriating. The Wagner debuff effect. It is wild. Do I think the Lakers can make the playoffs? Yeah. Like, thing is, not the way that they're playing right now, but I think they'll have their good and their bad. Yes, I still think the Lakers are at least a top 6 seed, but they're struggling right now. I need to figure something out, and I do think Rob Pelinka pulls off a trade. Again, maybe I'm just being overly optimistic, but I do. Let's see. This team is garbage. I'm with you, Mr. 81. Rui is garbage. He got backdoored all game in defensive end. He was supposed to be the third option. He literally is paid like a third option, and he is terrible. He's worse than Reeves. I mean, he's playing out of position. I mean, he's not great, right? Like, he's not great by any stretch of imagination, but again, he's playing out of position. He doesn't have the foot speed. He doesn't have the situational awareness, right? He's supposed to be playing defense in like the LeBron role as like the scout guy and stuff. Let's see. 80 in his prime with back-to-back performances. He is player 1 in talent, but a number 2 in mentality like PG. Yeah, right there with you, Nia. Right there with you. Now Lakers need my 99 overall 2K player. He'll save us. Sign him. Get him on Lakers. Let's see. Bruh, who's ready for Fortnite December 6th? This is what happens when Austin Reeves is playing. I mean, they were getting blown out with Austin Reeves. Like, I don't know why people keep saying that. Like, did we forget the previous games, right? Like, again, it happens. We're not getting blown out because we're missing Austin Reeves. We were getting blown out with Austin Reeves. 80 is not like Giannis that can make easy point slashing. The defense attacking the basket. Their defense is trash. They don't know what to do yet. They just don't have the athletes. They don't have the pieces. And it's infuriating. Let's see. Got to stay even keel. We really need to get healthy and get 80 involved early more. What happened to playmaker 80? I mean, he had 5 assists. But, again, it's just this is a game that he should have dominated. I understand wanting to stay even kill. I preach it all the time. Can't get too high with the highs, can't get too low with the lows. Talk about the pendulum swing and all that stuff. This was inexcusable from Anthony Davis. You're going up against Kevin Love, who even in his prime wasn't considered a defensive stopper. I know people point to like him locking up Steph Curry, but even the worst defenders can have a moment, right? Like it's inexcusable. It's inexcusable to play the level that he played this game. Let's see. Who can replace Pelinka right now? Bob Myers, Phil Jackson. Well, Phil Jackson was probably the worst GM we've ever seen. Did you see what he did to the Knicks? It was bad. So he is, I definitely great coach, terrible GM. And then Bob Myers, look, I've said it before. Who's coming? Which respectable GM wants to come to the Lakers to be told how to do their job? All right, no GM's coming to the Lakers to be told by Jeannie Buss, Kurt Rambis, and Linda Rambis how not to do their job. It's just not happening. It was 1 against 9 out the AFX. Yes, Jason, thank you so much. Please follow Jason's lead. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Share it with people. Do all that stuff. Turn on the bell notifications. I appreciate you, Jason. And yes, everyone, please take a quick second. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's see. Sorry, trying to find something. Me. Fire Pelinka, hire Bob Myers, but he can get trades done with the new CBA. Again, he can't if Jeannie Buss is telling him what he should and shouldn't do and what he can and cannot do, and he does pull off a trade and it gets vetoed and all that, right? Like Bob Myers is not coming to the Lakers to be told what he can and cannot do. Bob Myers is not going to the Lakers to have to listen to Jeannie go like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like, all right. That guy would step down like magic real quick. Honestly, would a trade help this team's effort? Yes. I mean, again, don't underestimate the value of a piece or two, right? I don't think that they're one. Like I've always said, we need this and, right? Even dating back to when like the Jeremy Grant was like Jeremy Grant and Cam Johnson and Bruce Brown and Zach LaVine and, right? Like you look at all these guys and if you can get two either top or higher end players, right? Like a Zach LaVine and a Bruce Brown or something like that, then yes, I think they're a contender. Or if you can get like three mid-tier guys, right? Or like one ceiling raiser and then like two mid-tier guys, I think they're a contender, right? Like, and again, you go get two or three guys that aren't part of the locker room, that aren't part of these blowouts, that aren't part of the, like even Denver. Like we just can't seem to beat Denver. It's like a mental, right? You think Zach LaVine's worried about Denver? They've beaten Denver. He's beaten Denver plenty of times. Like he doesn't have that mentality. He doesn't have the like, oh man, here we go, we're playing Denver today, right? Like, man, we just can't beat this team. No, he's showing up like, I beat them 2 weeks ago. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, don't even trip. Give me the ball. Get out the way, right? Like, that's the difference, right? Add some energy, some excitement, especially if you get guys that want to be a Laker, right? Like a guy like Zach LaVine wants to be a Laker, right? Like all of a sudden he's coming in, he's got that swagger. He's coming in like, woo, let's go, right? Like, David coming out to $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Forget about championships. Make the team competitive on a nightly basis. Holding on to picks for future is silly. Took Celtics 9+ years to get to the top. Yeah, look, David, I agree. Like we gotta like this is inexcusable at this point. I know it right now. It doesn't look like it, but I don't think we're that far from being a contender. I don't think any team is like that good. If you get two or three of the right pieces, the right guys, this team is right there. And like I said, now the pecking order goes down, right? Instead of relying on Austin Reeves as your third guy, now he's your fourth, fifth, sixth guy. If instead of having Connect have to be lights out every night, he's now your seventh, eighth guy, right? Like it's just everything goes down. Like I said, you get a Zach LaVine, a Dorian Finney-Smith, and a Day'Ron Sharpe, you fix pretty much all your holes. You got athleticism, you got defense, you got like the legit scorer and scoring option, right? Like you get the right pieces, you're right there, right? As currently constructed, no, they're not a contender, and it's embarrassing. But I don't think we're that far. Again, this is basketball. Basketball, 1-2 guys can be the difference. Dallas last year. Dallas was looking like, are they even going to make the play in again? Dallas was awful last year before that last push towards the end. And then Derrick Jones Jr. came alive. You look at Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington, and boom, it changed everything. Next thing you know, they're hot. They go on a run. Next thing you know, they're in the conference finals, right? Lakers a couple seasons ago, right? 2-10, absolutely awful, looking like an absolute disaster. Then you get D'Lo, Jared Vanderbilt, Austin Reeves has his emergence. Boom, you're in the conference finals, right? Like, again, this is basketball. You get a couple guys, you're there. A couple caliber pieces, you're right there. You get guys that are they're excited, they're happy to be there, right? Like they're in a different place, right? Like it's just they're in LA. Right? It's like, man, I got the beach, the girls, the money, the nightlife. It's different place, especially if you're like, in wherever, like, let's see. Max has been really good lately. Really good. Even like not just looking at like the box scores. If you actually watch the games, he's been really good. He's been like just doing all the dirty work, getting after it, deflecting passing lanes, helping keep balls alive. Like the guy he's been very good. He's been impacting the game in multiple ways. LeBron will show up if he wants to, but needs to cut these turnovers. Plus, Lakers don't have. Oh, I already got. We're not even a mid team at this point. Yeah, I mean, I would say we're mid. I mean, we're good, not great, right? We're beating all the bad teams, which you're supposed to do. But then all of the good to great, like if you're like a half decent team, you can beat the Lakers. I like how Max, I saw your comment, Stakes. I like how Max rebounds too. I love that Max does everything with two hands. Like they literally teach you that in like grade school. And like no one in the league does it. Right? Like rebounding, everyone wants to like one-handed grab, pull it in. No, Max goes up, grabs it with both hands, You know, he rebounds both hands. He drives and attacks and is aggressive with both hands. Right? Like I do. I really like he's very fun. The fundamentals are there. Is this fixable? Of course, it's fixable. Everything's fixable in basketball. Again, like is one guy like as big as I am on Zach LaVine, and I'm bigger on Zach LaVine than any other player that's available right now. Zach LaVine by himself doesn't. It fixes a lot. I do think. So yeah, I do think it's fixable. It's just you need a couple of the right pieces. Um, if you get 2, 3 guys, you're good. 80, 80, how can you play good with one eye? But play like trash with both eyes makes 0 sense. That's funny. Um, um, let's see. Are you ready to up your offer for LaVine? No, why would you? Like, what? It's just the Lakers would get LaVine. If LaVine cost that, like if you had to give first for LaVine, then it'd be a different conversation. The whole point is that you don't, right? Right? Like they need to get a top 10 pick or they lose their pick. They want off of Zach LaVine, right? Like it's circumstances. It's circumstantial. Again, I'm not saying Zach LaVine isn't worth more than just like salary matching. I do think he is, but you don't have to. If I have a car, right? If I have a car that you want and you can buy the car for 20 grand, let's say, right? You can buy the car for 20 grand, but the car's worth 50. Are you going to come to me and be like, hey, I know you're selling the car for 20,000, but it's worth 50. Here, I'm going to give you 50. No, you're going to be like, hey, thanks for the car, man. I appreciate it. 20 grand, great price. I love it. That's the point, right? Like, I see you commenting all the time, like, you're not going to, like, again, it's understanding the circumstances. Chicago insiders, like, I didn't just like come up with this delusion in my head. It's the countless reports from neutral insiders all the way to Chicago insiders. Chicago people, literally for the Chicago Sun Tribune, said that they are desperate to get off of LaVine and may even include Kobe White or Ayo. Right? That's not my opinion. It's not my opinion like, oh, you should be able to get Zach LaVine for peanuts. It's not Lakers insiders. It's not like that. Again, look it up. Right? You're not going to pay 20, you're not going to pay extra money for something that you can get cheaper. Do you go to a store and a pair of pants are $10 and you're like, man, you know what? You deserve more than 10. I'm going to give you 20. No, you buy the pants for $10. Right? Zach LaVine is worth they want to just basically get off of his contract. Okay, get off of his contract. Here you go. Right? Like if they want a second or something like that, then you talk about it. You figure it out. But you're not giving a first for Zach LaVine because you don't have to. That's the difference. It's not whether he's worth it or not. You can make an argument he's worth both firsts, but you don't have to give it up. So why would you do that? Right? Like that's part of the negotiation. That's part of being a good GM, right? How, as fans, we can see the Lakers need trades. We knew trades since last year, and we ain't getting a trade. Again, it's about what's available, right? Everyone is insanely overpriced right now, right? I mean, you're talking, Dorian Finney-Smith, they want a first for. Cam Johnson, they want 2 or 3 for, right? Like, even Jeremy Grant, literally Portland people have said, just give the Lakers, just get off of his contract. And they're sticking to their guns. Right? Like it's things like that. All right, I'm gonna do like one more sheet of questions and then I'm gonna skate on out of here so I can go start recording some videos for you beautiful people. All right, obviously super chats take priority, but outside of that, I'm just gonna go down this list here and then give Mr. Glass Vando off this team. Look, I think you have to at least consider it. I think you got to at least, excuse me. I think you got to at least gauge what you can get. Problem is, teams aren't really going to give you value for Vando right now, which is the problem. But by the time he comes back, he might not get enough games to where you're going to be able to raise his value. So you're looking at a team that wants to be bad. Like Chicago might be like, you know what? Hey, we'll take Vando because we want a top 10 protected pick. So we're fine. Hey, Vando, just take the year off. We don't even want you to come back. Just take the year off. And then that way you can be 100% healthy for next season after we get our top 10 pick, right? Like you need to find something like that for Vando. You need to find a team that is willing, that sees the value in Vando, but doesn't necessarily need him right now. You know, a team that wants to be bad. They need three to four talented players, right? I think you either need, if you can get a real ceiling raiser like an Ingram or a Levine, then you need like two like mid-tier guys. You either need 3 to 4 mid-tier guys or like one real ceiling raiser and then like 1 or 2 higher end mid-tier guys. Let's see. What are we doing, bro? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Seriously. Your guess is as good as mine. Let's see. I mean, who the F wants are players. They won't make an NBA roster as well. There's a lot of reasons why trades get done besides just the names on the back of the jersey, right? Like, again, a team like Chicago, they want to get off of Zach LaVine in his contract, right? So they're willing to take, like, it's easier to move off of, you know, 2 $11 million contracts than it is moving off of a $43 million contract, right? So, like, they'd be willing to take D'Lo because he's expiring, right? So he's off the books at the end of the year. And then Gabe Vincent and Rui, like Rui has value. They may be able to keep him or they can look to trade him. But also both guys are on expiring deals where Zach LaVine is making like 45 million next year and then like 50 million the next or whatever, right? Like, so you have like 130 million or something like that left on Zach LaVine's money. So if you're a team like Chicago, would you rather pay out 130 plus million or whatever it is, or would you rather have 1 year of 29 million or 28 million? That both guys could be valuable because they're expiring deals. So you can make some other moves and do some other things, right? Like that's why. Or, you know, some teams just, you know, they have a specific need. We have an abundance of guards, right? So like, let's get a forward in Rui, right? Or we have too many, you know, skinny forwards. We need a more physical, meaty power forward. Or just the picks. Like, hey, like Utah. We don't want any of the players, but we'd love to have the Lakers picks, right? Like there's all kinds of different variables. Levine, Vooch, and Ayo instead of Dorian Finney-Smith and Daron. I wouldn't be completely against it. I worry about the defense, but you might be so good offensively at that point that it might not matter. Let's see. As it stands, I understand the optimism. We got blew out twice by 30. Hard truth, we're going to overpay. Stay patient. We was the 3rd seed 2 weeks ago. Now we're probably the 11th. Yeah, but you got to stay patient. It's frustrating. It's infuriating. Believe me, the fan in me is screaming, go get a trade done. What are we doing? But you got to let cooler heads prevail, right? Like, because again, you could be worse. Or you could end up making a trade that doesn't make you that much better, but now you're stuck, right? Now you don't have the assets to go play. Like Rob Pelinka has to find the right deals. My thing is that if he doesn't, right, if we wait all this time and he doesn't find the right deal, then yes, I'm right there with you. Let's grab our pitchforks. But if he does, right, then, he deserves applause, right? It just, to me, I can't judge somebody based on what they may or may not do. I got to wait to see what is the end result. If he makes the right deal and he makes the right move, then, I'll be up here like, hey, he did it, my guy. But if he doesn't, well, then I'm just going to have to go the other way, right? Like, I'm going to have to be like, hey, this guy has been terrible. So, yeah. Surprisingly, Aiton's defense of rating is pretty good. I just don't like his contract. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton. Yeah, he's just. I think that there's room in there for him to be great, but it's been rough. Taylor, what's the package of LaVine, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a center? Well, I mean, it depends if you're doing one team or you're doing two teams, but essentially, you could do D'Lo, Rui, Gabe for a Zach LaVine. Boom, there you go. There's that. And then you also clear, by the way, like $2 million, which is important because you're going to need to sign a guy. So boom, there's that. And then Dorian Finney-Smith and let's say Day'Ron Sharpe. You're looking at about like 18, 19 million that you need to take to send out, right? So depends on how you want to approach it. You could do like Jared Vanderbilt plus like a Max Christie and a Jalen Hood-Schifino, or you could do like Jared Vanderbilt and stack a couple contracts. It just depends on what they want to do, right? Like what are they looking for? Or you could do like Jared Vanderbilt to if they're like, hey, we want Gabe Vincent. Okay, well then Jared Vanderbilt could go for the LaVine trade, and then you could add Gabe Vincent there. It just depends on what sides want what, right? Like Chicago might be like, hey, we would rather have Jared Vanderbilt, and the Nets might be like, hey, we don't really care either way. We're gonna trade Dennis Schroeder, so give us Gabe Vincent, right? Like it just depends, but essentially that's what you're looking at. You're looking at like D'Lo, Rui, Gabe, Jared Vanderbilt, and either Max Christie, or you could stack a couple guys, right? So like a Jalen Hood. If you do like Gabe Vincent to the Nets, then you could do like Gabe, Jalen Hood-Schifino. That gets you to Dorian Finney-Smith, and then you'd need like Christian Wood, and that gets you the other way. It's off the top of my head. It might be off by like a couple dollars or whatever, but that's essentially the gist of it. All right. Bro, we need 80 at the 4. That's how we won in 2020. Get Jonas, Kuzma, Dennis, Dorian Finney-Smith. We can compete. The problem is LeBron. LeBron was playing point guard and slotted at the 3 that year. Can't do that anymore. Every coach has had LeBron playing the 4. Like so many people are like, oh, LeBron, like why do they keep having LeBron play the 4? Because of his age and because of how he can kind of mask and kind of take plays off, take possessions off and stuff like that, right? The problem is, as long as LeBron's on this team, AD's probably playing the 4 or playing the 5. And even if LeBron's willing to play the 3, that might not be what's best for this team, right? Because by that point, you're like through the rest of the 60 games. Let's say you do a trade tomorrow for Vucevic, right? Problem is like, is LeBron at the 3 the answer, right? Is that good, right? I don't know. But anyway, I will do what makes you think Bulls want Lakers non-superstar players? I already explained this. Such financially, they're trying to get a top 10 pick, and they just want to get off his long-term money. So, yes. There's several reasons why they're willing to do it. Make a trade with the Nets, plus give them a first and 2 second-round pick, whatever it takes. If you can get essentially everybody, get everybody. Appreciate you, Joseph. I saw your comment. Let's see. Sorry, trying to find something. I feel like this team is 2-10 instead of 12-10. Yeah, feels like that sometimes for sure. Absolutely. Lakers need dogs on the bench. Lakers need anybody on the bench. I'm right there with you. Get LaVine. Funky Kong. I mean, Braun is going to Braun. People can overreact and get mad at his bad play without putting context into what's going on. But he's going to do what he's going to do. Bottom line is he is our star. Ain't motivated yet. He will be fine. All right. Let's do this last one here. Go get Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, Dorian Finney-Smith, and Valanciunas will definitely be a contender, playoff bound and championship bound guaranteed. Problem is they want like multiple firsts for Cam Thomas. They want like 2 to 3 firsts for Cam Johnson. Like even if they drop their asking price in half, which would be a lot, but even if they drop their asking price in half, you still wouldn't have enough to go get those guys. But you know, if you could pull something like that off, I would be all for it. Yeah, the last one, Lakers look dead. Yeah, 100%. But anyway, thank you all so much for hanging out with me. Seriously, you guys are awesome, and I greatly appreciate it. Real quick, on your way out, hit that like button if you haven't hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Everyone that hung out with me, thank you so much. Seriously, I really appreciate it. Everyone that gave me super chats, thank you so much. Really does. You have no idea how much that helps. And hopefully we have better days ahead, right? We do get 5 days off. Dude, they plugged in, by the way, real quick. Who is it? Minnesota and was it Minnesota and Dallas or something like that? What was the two teams? It was Minnesota and was it Minnesota and Denver, something like that they plugged in. Hang on, let me pull it up. It was it was Memphis, Minnesota and Memphis. So we get 5 days. So we have December 8th, and then we get 5 days off, which I think is crucial. I think that 5 days is important for LeBron and everyone just to kind of get some rest. But yeah, so they'll get 5 days off, and then they got the Timberwolves and the Grizzlies in between, and then they get 4 days off. So they have basically 9 days of rest in a what is it? 11-day period or 12-day period, something like that. So that's good. That's really good. You need that. Lakers really need that. But anyway, again, thank you all so very much. I really do appreciate it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys for the next game. What, on Friday?